What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan and I make varts, that's video art. While other jabronis are vlogging, I am squeezing out the most potent varts like this one here that you're watching right now. Sara, my partner in crime, and I just got back from a 3-week vacation to the Philippines, and I want to tell you all about it. What to expect, what to watch out for, how it compares to other countries in Southeast Asia, tips, and probably a whole lot of me complaining about things because sometimes I turn into an old man trying to send soup back in a deli. That reminds me, Filipinos, I love you. I'm going to say nice things about you, but I'm also going to talk some shit about your country.
Why is your rice so bad?
Don't take it personal. Don't argue that I'm just some tourist that doesn't know blah, 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 because that's true. We know that already. This video is being made by a past tourist for potential tourists, not for Filipinos. So your opinion, it doesn't really matter. That being said, please comment below. Call me an ultra jabroni, whatever you want to do. It's all just YouTube juice to me. I love that sweet, sweet YouTube juice. I just take it and I squeeze it out, and sometimes I put it on a rag and I just wipe my body down with it. Okay, so the Philippines. The reason to travel there, 100% is its natural beauty, specifically its beaches. Don't go there for the history. Of course, they have a long history, but it's just not all that impressive or exciting. For example, we went to Cebu, the first and oldest city in the Philippines. The historical highlight was this cross, Magellan. The Portuguese explorer put a cross here back in the 1500s. That's pretty cool, I guess. Or maybe it's Fort San Pedro, the 18th century Spanish fort. Have a walk along its walls and think about how you'd rather be swimming in turquoise waters and searching the coral for Nemo. Filipino beaches are so beautiful that I kind of forgot to video record any of them. I think I had 1 or 2 shots on my phone. I was just too busy loving them. We left Cebu and we went to Bohol, a seaside town with guest houses, restaurants, and great snorkeling. Let's talk a bit about transportation now. We took a bus from the bus station in Cebu. I found the buses to be pretty good in the Philippines. The bus stations are a little chaotic, but the good thing about the Philippines is that you don't really have to look hard to find somebody who speaks English to help you. One thing about the buses that I wasn't prepared for was the lack of information online. I was surprised that it was hard to find the schedules, you couldn't book tickets, even the routes, we weren't even sure what routes were running still. But it turns out just showing up to the bus station is probably the best way to do it. For popular routes, buses are running like every 30 minutes. No one seems to be booking ahead, so you should be okay just to show up. But don't blame me if you're not. The buses themselves are pretty comfy, but I would recommend paying extra for the AC bus. Buses are cheap, and they're a great way to rub elbows with the locals, so I definitely recommend buses in the Philippines. Our trip to Bohol took about 3 hours, but be warned that traffic in the Philippines can be terrible at times. We took that same bus ride, but in reverse. Like we went back to Cebu, not in reverse where like the driver did the whole thing again, but backwards. It took 5 hours this time, and that was because of traffic. 2 extra hours because of the traffic. So be sure to give yourself a lot of extra time, especially if you're trying to make a connection to, for example, a ferry, which is exactly why we're going back to Cebu to catch a ferry to Bohol. Luckily, we gave ourselves an extra 2+ hours, so we were just barely able to make the ferry. The ferries. Let's talk about the ferries. There are a lot of ferries in the island country of the Philippines. You can book most of them online ahead of time. I recommend you do that actually because they do sell out sometimes. Because the waters and the weather are pretty unpredictable, ferries are often canceled. Actually, from Bohol, the original plan was to go down to Oslob and take the ferry from there over to Panglao. That way we wouldn't have to go back to Cebu. But the day before we were set to go, we checked online to make sure it was still running. And of course it wasn't. It said that the ferry was canceled for technical issues. I found it a little suspicious though, because these technical issues meant that the ferry wouldn't run on the 22nd and the 23rd of December. Then the 24th and 25th were Christmas and Christmas Eve. It was a holiday. And then the 26th, also technical issues, but the 27th they would be back to normal. I mean, if you want to take an extended holiday, then okay, but maybe let us know a bit further in advance so the entire country can plan their transportation for the holiday season. I think with the bigger companies, this won't happen so much, but just be careful with the smaller independent ones. Back to Bohol. Isn't that a fun name? It reminds me of a bowl full of lanced moles. When the bus dropped us off, we had to get from the highway to the town, so we had to take a motorized tricycle, basically a motorcycle with a big sidecar attached to it. These things are notorious for ripping off tourists. There's actually signs posted around the city that tell you the rates. The rates are controlled, so you could go up to the sign and point to it and be like, no, see, you're only supposed to charge me this much. But the drivers will use any excuse they can to get you to pay more, and they'll kind of band together to get you to pay that inflated fee. I'd like to tell you to stick to your guns and not pay the inflated fee, but you might end up sitting there for an hour trying to convince the driver to give you the standard rate. We ended up paying about $4 for the ride, and it should cost like $2. I think the reason they gave us was,
Oh, we have 4 seats in our sidecar here, so you got to pay for the extra seats that are empty.
it's all bullshit, and we knew it, but how long are we going to sit in the sun with our heavy backpacks for? I was actually surprised by how much I was lied to by the Filipinos who work in the transportation industry. For the most part, Filipinos seem like genuine, honest people, but the ones that work in the transportation industry just had no problems lying to get you to use their service. One guy told us the Cirrus bus wasn't running because of Christmas, so I should go with him in his minivan, even though a Cirrus bus worker was sitting there at a table in his uniform within eyesight. We also arranged a private car ride from Manila to Pampanga with a taxi company. We paid 3,200 pesos for 4 people, and it was all good. When it was time to head back to Manila, it was just Sara and I, so we thought it's probably not worth getting a private taxi. We should just take the bus. But I decided I'll send the guy a message and see how much he quotes us. I'll just read the message that he sent me back. So I gave him the information and he told me how much it would cost. And I said, sorry, I think we'll take the bus. It's expensive when it's only 2 people. Ouch, you already booked. We already have a driver. It's very difficult to get crowded on the bus tomorrow because it's December 30th tomorrow. Please think about this. And then he tried to call me and I didn't answer. I am convincing you to go for this ride with a sedan unit. It's better than the bus for that date. Please think about it. I am only concerned with you, friend, because you are my regular passengers. I'm worried about you. Please treat me as a friend and not only as a booker. Then he tried to call me at 11 p.m. In the morning, I sent him a message. We will try the bus. Turns out the bus was not busy. In fact, there were quite a few empty seats. It was easy, it was just as fast, and it was way, way cheaper. I kind of regret not taking the bus up originally. If you're going to be taking a taxi in the Philippines, I highly recommend you download the Grab app and use that to book your rides. With Grab, it's just easier. Your location is there, the rate, you know how much you're going to pay. It's just so much simpler. You can also order food through the Grab app. So if you want some food delivered to your hotel, you can do that too. And taxis are pretty cheap, so they are a good way to get around. Because the Philippines is an island nation, there are a lot of flights. There's a lot of little hops from island to island, and the flights are pretty cheap. The airports are small and you can get through them pretty quickly. I was also impressed that the airports didn't overcharge for food and drink. I could get a meal in the airport for basically the same price as I would outside of the airport. Okay, back to Mobile. We stayed in a home that was converted into a guest house. At least that's what it seemed to me. And in Cebu, we stayed in a hotel. And then in Pampanga, we stayed in like an Airbnb type thing. So we got a pretty nice mixture of accommodations in the Philippines. And I think the best way to tell you about them is to read the reviews I left on Agoda for them. Agoda, I found, is the best place to book hotels or guest houses in the Philippines. Okay, so here we go. Uncle Fart Smell. Picked this hotel because of the location, which was great because it's very close to the night market. Unfortunately, the hotel is quite worn down. The lobby smelled like your uncle's farts. The room smelled like your aunt's farts. Slightly better than your uncle's farts, but not ideal. You won't get lonely in your room's bathroom, as there are always little cockroaches around to keep you company. Bed was comfy enough, but my wife woke up with scratches on her body. Possibly an incubus situation. 6.8. Good. How is that good? Pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to add anything to that. Let's move on to Mobile and the guest house we stayed in. Made me feel at home and very strong. I love the location of this laid-back guest house. It's close to all the restaurants of Mobile, but it's far enough away, like a 5-minute walk, so that it's quiet. We rented snorkels from the guest house, and we were able to snorkel right from the hotel as it's on the beach, and there's easy access to the beautiful coral reefs. If you follow the coral cliff edge going towards the main part of Mobile, you'll surely see balls of sardines and all kinds of beautiful fish. But we also saw a sea turtle and a sea snake hunting in the coral. The staff was very friendly. They got a bit tipsy one night, but it was Christmas, so I didn't mind. Pool was great, lots of places to sit or lounge. There was a little bratty child that loved to splash and scream, but I can only blame the apparently highly Instagrammable parents for that. And if the hotel would have, say, killed the child, I probably would have been more upset about that than the yelling and splashing. My only qualm was that they kept our room deposit because we broke a door handle. All I did was turn the doorknob and pull it, and the thing popped off like it was made out of sardine bones. I thought that's how you were supposed to open doors, but apparently my 6-inch biceps are just too powerful for the Philippines. 10. Exceptional. And finally, the Airbnb. It was actually not a real Airbnb. I call it an Airbnb, but it's in the style of Airbnb. We booked through Agoda. This was a unit in a condo in San Fernando, Pampanga. Microwave water and Popeye. This apartment is small but nice, and the views from the balcony are great. That being said, I wouldn't really recommend staying in the building. The Azure North residences in Pampanga are these giant condo buildings that are not within walking distance to anything. The buildings look nice from the outside, but the big bad wolf could probably blow the whole thing over with a small huff. The elevator door rubbed up against the frame with a loud scraping noise.
Oh god. That's unsafe.
The water, when you took a shower, pooled up in a corner. The kettle didn't work, so I was forced to boil water in a pot, but then I saw the condition of the pot, rust and blackened burnt bits, and I ended up having to microwave water in a coffee mug to boil it. The AC is not exactly in a convenient place as it blows cold air directly into the person right next to it. I ended up having to wake up in the middle of the night to microwave water in order to thaw my arm out. The main reason I booked this place is because of the pool. They have a sand beach pool that looks pretty cool. However, it turned out it's not included in the room. It costs extra. And the pool was only open until noon, which I thought was insanity. The saving grace was that the TV had Amazon Prime instead of Netflix, so we were able to watch old Popeye cartoons. That scrappy little seaman sure can wallop a fool. 7.6. Very good. So what can we take from this? Anybody? That I'm a sarcastic asshole. Yes, we could do that, yeah. I found that in the Philippines, the hotels that were nice were a bit more expensive than what I was used to paying in Southeast Asia. You can get a place in the $30 a night range, but it won't be as nice as the $30 a night range hotels in Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam. Things like water pressure, how hot the water is, smells in the room, how clean the hotel is, just like how cheap the things are that are in the room. I want to say those are where the Philippines lose points when comparing their hotels and guest houses to other places in Southeast Asia. Customer service, facilities, they're on par, I would say. I'm sure you've seen my video about our day out in Bohol. Of course you have. I mean, it would be pretty embarrassing if you haven't. Not even your grandmother would love you anymore. We took a day tour of Bohol Island where we saw the chocolate mountains and some weird monkey rat hybrid thing. It was a great tour, and my point of bringing it up now is, well, it's to get you to watch that video, but also to tell you about Klook. If you're in the Philippines and you're thinking about doing a tour, be sure to check Klook to see what they have. I contacted a few tour operators in the area and all their prices were more, sometimes a lot more than what Klook had to offer. We ended up booking a tour that was really just a driver who could speak some English. We had to share the ride with 8 other people. We had to pay the entrance fees ourselves. But he took us to all the sites that we wanted to see, and the best part was that it was just $11 each. For a private driver, for just the 2 of us, it would have cost us around $30 each plus admission. Or for a full-on tour that includes a tour guide and admission to everything, it would have cost us $60, and about $20 of that would have been the admission. So basically $11, $30, or $40 for the same tour, essentially, just depending on how much service you want with it. Whichever option you prefer, it's just nice to have those options, but you need to know where to find those options, and that place is Klook. You're welcome very much. Let's talk about the food in the Philippines. Let me try something, actually. Hey, Google.
Zap, bro?
What country in Southeast Asia has the worst food? This is from Quora. A bunch of people say the Philippines.
Filipino food is the worst. Filipino street food is ranked the worst food in Southeast Asia. Food in the Philippines is bland. Philippines has the worst food in Southeast Asia. What makes Filipino food the worst in Southeast Asia?
I didn't say it. The internet said it. Don't blame me. The internet's the one saying all this stuff about your food. Overall, their diet is pretty horrendous. Hardly any vegetables. Everything's deep fried.
We only got these because they're vegetarian. Let's see. Not a lot of veg enough.
There are only 2 vegetables in the Philippines. When I say that, I don't mean there are 2 types of vegetables. There are literally only 2 vegetables. There's 1 carrot and there's 1 eggplant. Usually it's meat, and then with a side of meat. They like their food salty. They like their sweet things super sweet. We both put on weight after 3 weeks in the Philippines. This wasn't just some Christmas weight. This was Filipino Christmas weight. Oh, jeez. As you can see here, I didn't poop in the Philippines for 4 days. And then on the 5th day, I had a poop, but it was poor. I bought oatmeal on the 2nd day, oatmeal and fruit for breakfast, because I knew there was going to be a problem. But I really f***ed up, and I had lechin on the very first day. It took me 12 days to get that out of my system fully. Schedule over there. All kidding aside, there is good food in the Philippines. You just have to go looking for it. I recommend eating the traditional Filipino food while you're in the Philippines. It's way healthier than the modern Filipino diet, and it's also really tasty. Lots of things stewed in coconut milk. Adobo is their national dish. It's a meat slowly cooked in paprika, oregano, salt, garlic, and vinegar. There are some good fish dishes. Lechon, their roast pork. It's amazing. It will bung you up, but it's amazing. They have a really good sauce game. They like vinegar a lot, which I can get behind. One of my favorite meals we had was from this little barbecue shack in Mobile. I don't even know how we found this place, but the people running it were super friendly, and the barbecue was really great. The Filipinos can barbecue. They make a decent sausage. Their lager is good. One of the best lagers, like if you're looking at the just typical lager in all of Southeast Asia, Beer Lao, Cambodia, Angkor, Chang. I mean, I probably would say San Miguel is better than all those. Manila had a lot of good foreign food. Actually, I found that their Chinese food in the Philippines is better than the Chinese food that I typically eat here in Cambodia. Just more authentic, really. Also, the Mexican food. We went to a couple Mexican places and it was surprisingly good. Trying to think if there's any other don't miss dishes. Spam and egg sandwich. It's pretty good. Sisig is another Filipino dish that I really enjoyed. It's a pig's face and a pig's liver chopped up and then like serve it on this like sizzling platter. It's really tasty, actually. Pig face probably doesn't sound that delicious, but it was pretty good. Where the Filipinos take the title when it comes to food in Southeast Asia, their desserts. This is an ensaimadas. I think it has cheese in it and it's made with like a potato starch, so it's like super fluffy. Halo halo. I was actually surprised how much I enjoyed this. You just have to find your combo. It's like a choose your own diabetic adventure. Pretty good snacks in their convenience stores. I think their chocolate is better than most other Southeast Asian countries' chocolate. The rice sucks. What is going on here, Filipinos? Why is your rice so bad? The Chinese girls that I was traveling with, they had it once and they're like, no, this is not gonna do this. Can you imagine that? A Chinese person not ordering rice. That's how bad the rice is in the Philippines. I had like 6 meals with them. No, refused to order rice. I don't even know if it's the quality of the rice or just the way they cook it, because it seems like they just make up a big batch of it, lodged up and stuff. I don't know. I hate to go on a rice rant, but get your shit together, Philippines. If you're into shopping, shopping's pretty good in the Philippines. I wouldn't say it's cheaper than most Southeast Asian countries, but there are probably more chains. There's probably more chains that you recognize. Stores like Uniqlo are available there. Not available in Cambodia, sadly. I'm sorry, Sara. We'll change that one day. Don't worry, sweetheart. I did this whole rant about malls in this other video I made that you should watch, especially if you like shopping or if you like sarcastic assholes. But I wanted to mention the malls because you'll find a lot of good restaurants in the malls. There seem to be more chain restaurants in the Philippines compared to other Southeast Asian countries. A good mall will be equipped with a Jollibee, the fast food king of the Philippines, a Chowking, Filipino Chinese food, a Mang Inasal, it's a barbecue fast food chain, a Max's restaurant, they do fried chicken and other Filipino dishes, a Chooks to go, I don't even know anything about this place, I just really think the name is fun to say, a Jerry's Grill, we ate there once, it was pretty good stuff, Red Ribbon, Cunties or Conties, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one. They do really good food there. Also, Mary Grace, check them out if you're looking for breakfast, really good breakfast there. But they also have chain restaurants from other countries, like American chains like TGI Fridays, Chili's, Denny's, and of course McDonald's, which we did actually go to. I blame Sara for this. She was like, we can't leave the Philippines without eating at either McDonald's or Jollibee. What? Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing that we have to do before we leave the Philippines? So our very last meal in the Philippines was in fact McDonald's. I tried to put it off as long as possible. And of course I wasn't about to go to Jollibee. Jollibee is like if somebody knocked over McDonald's food and kicked it under a vending machine and then it sat there for a couple of days and then somebody went, oh, there's food under this vending machine. They pulled out the food and they put it on a tray and then put a little was it a bee? Jollibee. It's a bee, right? And they gave it to you and then you had to eat it. That's Jollibee. That's it. That is where I lost them. Every single Filipino has now turned against me. Please stick up for your precious Jollibee in the comments below. Jollibee now serving YouTube juice. So this McDonald's that we went to, it's just outside of the SM Mall of Asia, the largest mall in all of the Philippines. It's just across the road from it. The only reason I'm pointing out exactly where it was is because I want to shame them. I want to shame them bad. It was the worst McDonald's I have ever been to, hands down, no competition. This was the table that was next to us. And I swear to God, this photo was taken after a guy came around and cleaned. He went around, he picked up all the trash off the ground, but he didn't think the table needed to be wiped. 1 fly, 2 fly, 3 fly, 4 fly, 5 flies. And what might be a smear of shit? When Ronald sees this, he is going to go mental.
Are you trying to ruin me or what?
Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning of the video.
The reason to travel there, it's beaches.
You're right, there are great beaches and beach towns, handsome man. I was in Boracay about 8 years ago, and I still have that beach, that island, at the top of my list for party beach spots. It might actually have the best water-sand combination overall out of all the beaches I've been to. It's incredible. We actually went to Palawan about 11 years ago, and it was also mind-bogglingly beautiful as well. That being said, this trip we didn't really do too much beaching. Only 7 out of the 20 days were spent in beach towns. We actually spent the same amount of time in Manila, which is crazy. I don't know what did we really screwed that up. No, the reason for this was, well, 1, it was because we were visiting friends, and 2, because we wanted to get to know the Philippines, the real Philippines. Beach towns, the heavily touristed ones, are full of tourists, so most of the people there are probably tourists. The locals who are there, they mostly work in the tourist industry, so it's just not a good representation of Filipino people. It would be like going to America and only meeting, name your occupation, carnies.
Me and Spud got a duck out for our AA meeting.
If you only met carnies, would that be a good representation of America? Probably not. Let's hope not. Let's say no. No, it's not. Yeah, so we wanted to see more of the real Philippines, and we wanted to interact with the real Filipino people from all walks of life. And this is the second best reason to travel to the Philippines, the people and the fact that it's easier to communicate with them than it is to communicate with most other Southeast Asian nations. Okay, the English in Singapore is probably a little bit better, but they're way too busy just working and being all cool to have a conversation with you. I love that in the Philippines, I could strike up a conversation with just some random guy and I wouldn't have to dumb down, for the lack of a better word, my language. I could joke around a bit more. I could be a sarcastic asshole, which is my trademark. I think we have more in common. Their music, their culture, it's just more relatable to me than most other countries in Southeast Asia. I want to use the word heartwarming to describe the country. They're just very family oriented. They love to sing and dance. They're easygoing. I know this can describe a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, but the Philippines just is different. I guess because they were colonized by the Spanish, it really feels like Latin America meets Asia. Kind of reminded me of my time spent in Ecuador. All the singing and celebrating, the family values, the Catholicism. Take that, mix it with the American influence, and I want to say that the Philippines is kind of like Mexico. It's like Mexican Asia. Maybe that comment will piss off even more people, but I don't mean it as an insult. The Philippines does have its problems. I think the streets are a little dirtier. There seems to be a larger gap between the rich and the poor. The large gun presence, it's not all that reassuring to me. I think it's probably one of the most dangerous places in Southeast Asia. But we have to remember that it's a country of islands, and that makes it harder to get everybody on the same page, if that makes sense. We left the Philippines kind of wishing that we had spent more time on the beach and kind of wishing we had had more poops. That's just not enough poops for 21 days or whatever. It's just 3 weeks. It's not enough poops. But overall, it was a great experience. And for those of you who are traveling to the Philippines, I hope this video helped you. And for those of you who are Filipino and you're just watching this because you wanted to see what I would say about your country, I'm so sorry for insulting Jollibee. That was out of line. I take it back. It's good quality food. Their chicken, fried chicken, I mean, top notch. The Jolly meal, I don't know what it's called. It's like a meal. It's got a lot of calories. Really good stuff. So please accept my apology for that. Take care, comb your hair. I'm out.
Don't match up, no love, fuck a date. I just fade when I hit the jack. You can keep the pot. Every night I got my light stop. Yeah, when I check the cost, I was like, oh, that's expensive.